All right, family. Peace and love. Peace and love. This is a little bit better in terms of the view than what you guys are seeing on your end. I did want to make it, something where people can have a visual to come and look at. I'm going to share my screen on this live as well too. We're going to go over a couple different case studies. This is a part two, a continuation of last video. We did get some technical difficulties. I'm not on the streaming platform right now. I'm simply just here on YouTube right now going live, and I got my webcam set up, but it did get disconnected, and then I didn't know of any way to getting it back connected. So if you guys are tuning in, we've already been in a state of gratitude. We've been going over a little bit of our story and how we got into consumer law. And just when I found out truly what the definition of debt was and how, we're using our credit card for every single one of these transactions. And our credit card isn't what we've been taught, of as a lot of us think of it as an Amex card, but it's really our social security number, our social security card, our license, our license plate, etc. Our credit card is things that we're using, within this commerce, this game of this commercial game, which I was breaking down and referencing, going over the analogy of monopoly, and that's really what it is in essence. And when these laws came about in the late 60s, early 70s, right? Title 15 came about in the late 60s. When it all came about, right? This was for only a specific group of individuals to know about when we're talking about consumer law. Now we're talking about the masses getting in tune with this information, right? The masses understanding that the power has always now finally been in our hands. In Deuteronomy 15, that tells you will lend to many nations but borrow from none, and that there should be no poor people walking amongst us in the land that your Lord has given to us, right? And so therefore, if we go to downtown and if we go to a lot of the bigger cities and places and corporations, right, there's the biggest population of homeless people and people that don't have homes, when it states that there should be no poor people walking amongst us, but there's millions of people living in poverty, right? And that's simply because we're not in tune with this information. So when I talk about dropping a like, the like's not for me. The like isn't for this channel. The like isn't for the clout. The like isn't for you. The like isn't for your friend or to look good. The like is for those that are in poverty and those that are looking to get and find a way to get out of and to just get afloat, right? Just to get back to sea level, right? That are looking to get out of that debt that they're in, they're drowning in. When if they understood how to discharge it with what we're teaching here on this channel, I promise you they'd be able to get those things done. All right, so let's continue to get the likes up. If you guys are watching the replay, the live, whatever it may be, let's get the likes up. Let's make sure as well too we're in tune with all of my teachings, and you guys have not only subscribed but hit the notification bell so that you guys don't miss out on any future lives. But to get into the live and basic things and core principles and things that we must have, right? When we talk about anything that is actual, and when we talk about longevity, when we talk about anything that is going to outlive us, when we talk about just something that is solid, right? We got to start always at the foundation, right? We always got to start at the core, right? If anything that's ever going to outlive anything or anyone is, this core has always got to be strong, right? And if the core, if the foundation isn't strong, it's going to crumble. That's just like anything. You could build a house, you could build the biggest house, but if the core, if the foundation of that house is not strong, it is going to collapse. If the core of that building is not strong, it is going to collapse. So the core and the foundation when it comes to understanding consumer law is the definitions. It's the congressional findings. It's what Congress found. It's why these laws were governed in the first place, right? So specifically to help those that are fairly new to consumer law, Title 15 is where we're covering and where we're going to go and learn from. Let me see if I'm able to share my screen for you guys. Drop a 3 in the chat if when shared you guys all can see my screen. I want to make sure you guys are all here with me at Title 15 U.S. Code. All right, so this is Title 15. I do recommend every single one of you guys coming here to cornelllaw.edu. Simply drop a 3 in the chat if you guys are with me, if you guys are able to see my screen. I want to make sure that everybody is in tune with Title 15. And I'm going to take you guys through 2 different chapters here on today's training. Today, specifically, number 1 is going to be Chapter 41, which is a Consumer Credit Protection Act. Notice how it's not a consumer debt protection, chapter, and a chapter governing debt, but it's a whole chapter in where we're governing credit and the protection of one's credit. And why are we talking about the protection of credit? Because we're talking about the protection of one's life, right? Understand that credit and debt is literally life or death. Think about people that have been in debt and that have maybe killed or harmed themselves because of the debt in which they've been in. I personally know of people that have harmed themselves, that have killed themselves, thought about killing themselves because of the debt in which they're in, because they're drowning in this. Like I talked about, the poverty, and the rate of poverty of people that are in poverty is way higher than it should be, simply because people don't understand their rights as consumers. And if we understood our rights as consumers, we would understand that we are the creditor within every single transaction. If you guys don't believe me, I could do an even more in-depth training on how you credit every single one of these corporations. And so within chapter 41, we will be breaking down the Consumer Credit Protection Act. And for starters, we got the Consumer Credit Cost Disclosure. So things that they're supposed to disclose to you on the consumer credit cost, right? So a lot of people are looking to go to the dealership, looking to get these automobiles, are looking to get these mortgages, are looking to get these lines of credit, these credit cards, etc. Right? When going, there are certain disclosures that they must disclose to you prior to you even getting and knowing about any fees, the amount, the cost of anything. There are certain things that they must disclose and go over with you. And Congress passed this, and this is what I was talking about with congressional findings. Right? This is always what Congress found. Congressional findings is simply Congress found, and the declaration of purpose is the facts and the evidence of what they found and the purpose for this chapter. That's all that congressional findings and declaration of purpose is stating. In layman terms, that's exactly what it's stating. Congress found, these evidence, and these are the evidence, that this is what Congress found, and we're going to break down the purpose of the facts and the evidence that were found of why this, chapter was passed, in layman terms. And breaking it down, it talks about right away the informed use of credit. So right away we talk about informed use of credit. Why are we talking about people, consumers, natural people being informed on the use of credit? What if I were to tell you that you haven't been properly informed upon the use of your credit? So that's why right away within Title 15, the Credit Protection Act, we're talking about informed use of credit. So to protect consumers' credit, to protect our life, it would help us if we were properly informed upon the use of our credit. Drop a 5. Drop a 5. This is all making sense. Drop a 5. This is making sense, family. If you guys are with me, if you guys are in tune with today's teachings, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I see you, Ramona. I see you tuned in. Shout out, Ramona, one of our YBC mentees. Super grateful to have you a part of the community, to have you a part of every single thing that it is that we have going on. I see you, Gaz, boys. Drop your guys' city as well, too. Let me know what city you guys are tuning in from. We are going to be touring this summer, and the tour flyer will be released this week. So I am going to be releasing the tour dates this Friday. So if you guys want to go ahead and get on the tour flyer, make sure you drop your dates and everything, because the finalization of the flyer and for our tour will be this Friday. So I highly advise you guys all make sure to be in tune and drop your guys' cities, on this video specifically. Share this video so that whatever city you guys are looking to have me come out to, you guys can have people in that city drop their city so that I can add you guys to my tour flyer. So Title 15, that's 1601. So it talks about credit would be strengthened by the informed use of credit. The informed use of credit results from an awareness of the cost thereof by consumers. It is the purpose of the subchapter to assure a meaningful disclosure of credit terms so that the consumer will be able to compare. So if I'm comparing, that means I'm getting this prior to, before, going through the agreement and getting any terms and getting any numbers and any amounts. So the numbers should already be computed. I shouldn't need to have my credit pulled to tell me what my payment plans and everything are going to be. Those should already be computed. I should be able to come in and with my credit card and with my unlimited credit plan, let you know which, plan I'm looking, in which terms I'm looking to, go ahead and go with. To avoid the uninformed use of one's credit and to protect the consumer against inaccurate and unfair credit billing and credit card practices. So I want you guys, above all else, to pay attention to the verbiage that is used within the congressional findings of each one of these subchapters. We're talking about inaccurate and unfair credit billing and credit card practices. So when in communication with them, when you guys are using, and I highly recommend to use ChatGPT to help you draft up these letters, use terminology as such. They've reported inaccurate and unfair credit billing or credit, they've reported inaccurate and unfair credit accounts on, my report. This is an infringement upon the Billing Errors Act, or, they've, in accordance to the agreement that I have with them in the billing error, section, they're reporting inaccurately and unfairly, right? The credit card practices in which they've taken have been, they've uninformed me upon the use of my credit and, their credit card practices in which they've been, going about. Remember, credit card is not, them using your Amex card, but them using your social, them using your information, right? So any credit transaction, Truth in Lending is going to be your guys' best friend. Understand there's a whole, lot of Truth in Lending. It doesn't just stop here at 1616, right? There is more to this subchapter as a whole. Some things that are very powerful within here is 1635, the right of rescission. Within this one specifically, 1640, this is holding them civilly liable. There is a civil liability section within each and every single one of these subchapters as well too. We're not just going to go through and break down the 3 subchapters here on today's call. I'm not going to go too much in depth with this because within YBC University, we do have an overview of every single one of these subchapters, going in depth with Truth in Lending, with all of the other subchapters I'm going to cover here in a second as well too. I just wanted to bring awareness to some of the most important codes within Truth in Lending and the other chapters or subchapters that we're going to be covering here as well too. We are going to stay in terms of chapters within chapter 41 and chapter 94. So these are subchapters. These are, books within the overall book of chapter 41 and within the overall book, or, of chapter 94. But those chapters, chapter 94 and chapter 41, are all within Title 15. So 1611 is also very powerful as well too within Truth in Lending, and that's holding them criminally liable. So not only holding them civilly liable, but we can hold them criminally liable for them knowingly and willfully, using unfair, deceptive, debt collection practices, and just misusing our credit as a whole right away. Them not going over disclosures which they're required to disclose to us, etc. Simply read through this, and I promise you guys will get a great understanding, right? So the starters of Truth in Lending is 15 USC 1601, and the definition section for Truth in Lending, which I believe is probably the most powerful definition section within all of the subchapters we're going to cover, is 15 USC 1602. And I do recommend you guys go out and get some cards, some note cards to go through and study these as well too. I see some more people streaming up on in here. I love to see the numbers going up. Continue to drop the likes so that those that are drowning in the debt, those that are looking to get in tune with consumer law, those that are looking to find something to help them get out of the situation that they're in, this video can do such. So go ahead and continue to get the likes up so that the algorithms and more people can get in tune with these teachings. Like I talked about earlier on this live, this is information that's been out since 1968, right? That we're talking about when Truth in Lending was passed, 1968. But we're talking about about 98% of you guys have never heard of consumer law, are not in tune with it, are not aware that, you guys can go out and discharge that, are not aware that your private information should not be furnished. And if it's furnished, you can not only get it removed from wherever it's being furnished, but you could actually hold these corporations civilly liable for them infringing upon your rights and infringing upon your privacy as a consumer within the United States corporation. If you don't believe the United States is a federal corporation, go look up Title 28 USC 3002, number 15. Right, so we must understand these subchapters. The first one was understanding that your credit has not been properly used, and you must understand and be informed upon the use of your credit and how it's being properly used. Then I talked about going to the definitions, reading the definitions. You guys will understand that your credit card isn't what you guys have thought of. You guys do have an open-end credit plan. Think about something that is open-ended. If it's open-ended, there is no end to it. It's infinite. You have an infinite credit plan, right? You have an infinite ability to contract with every single one of these corporations. You cannot be, denied one's God-given right. How can we be denied something that is infinite, right? There's no end to it, right? So if your guys' personal information is being furnished, if it is being bought and sold, if you guys do have a bankruptcy and that's being furnished, understand that all LexisNexis did was furnish that information from, with this PACER system, from the court systems, and therefore they then sold this to Equifax, they sold this to Experian, they sold this to TransUnion, and therefore they came in attempts to collect this alleged debt. And if that is such, the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, is where we want to go about understanding and learning how to put these corporations and hold these corporations liable. So the FCRA, I believe, is in terms of dealing with the consumer reporting agencies and Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, LexisNexis, bankruptcies as a whole, late payments, things of that kind. I believe the FCRA will be the most powerful for you guys in terms of getting those types of accounts removed. Inquiries, the FCRA is where you guys are going to want to get familiar with. So right away, we talk about accuracy and fairness of credit reporting. All right, so clearly these corporations were not being fair, and they were not reporting accurately as well too. One thing I want to bring awareness to as well, that's different from this congressional findings to the other two that we're going to be covering as well too, is that the FCRA is a statement of purpose rather than a declaration of purpose. I mentioned how a declaration of purpose, and this is what Congress found. Right now, Congress though leaves this isn't factual and it's not evident. So therefore, Congress is leaving up to us, the consumers, to define what is factual and what is, and to gather all of the evidence. So therefore, we can come up with a declaration. But that's why it's a statement rather than a declaration of purpose, because Congress is leaving up to you, the consumer, to define what is accurate and what is fair. And we must understand these terms going through the Black's Law Dictionary. So I do recommend looking these two terms up in the Black's Law Dictionary, accuracy and fairness. And right away, the first sentence is all I'm going to read, but this breaks down how the banking system is dependent upon our credit. Period, point blank. It states that. So Congress makes the following findings: the banking system is dependent upon fair and accurate credit reporting. So to be dependent upon something means that I cannot live without it. Means that, if I'm dependent upon milk and I'm a baby, right? I cannot live without this milk, right? Without this milk, I will not survive. This is where I get my nutrients from. This is where I eat from. This, without water, we cannot survive. We're dependent upon water, right? And that's just what it is. The banking system is dependent upon fair and accurate credit reporting. It's a statement of purpose. So you, the consumer, define what is fair. You, the consumer, define what is accurate as well too. And the definition of accuracy will surprise a lot of you guys. And then furthermore, they state that all these consumer reporting agencies are simply an elaborate mechanism that's been developed for investigating and evaluating credit worthiness, credit standing, etc. Then it states, and we're going to go over here soon, and we're going to hop into a case law study, and I'm going to show you guys where you guys can go study Supreme Court cases of exactly what I'm teaching and how this has been passed within federal law. Federal courts, and how and why. Anytime we do use federal law, we don't want to ever go in a state court. We always want to go in a federal court because these are federal laws and codes in which we are using. And federal laws will always trump and supersede state law and statute. And the reason why statute is a thing and is able to even hold any type of power is because people are operating in suitorship and jointer of this organization, and they're being sued by another organization, the state of Arizona, the state of California, right? So they're getting two corporations to contract with one another, and that's how they're not actually in contract with you, the natural person. So these trafficking tickets, all that can be discharged. You don't owe, the natural person doesn't owe any of these, corporate entities and fictitious entities a dime, right? The organization that is mirroring you, the natural person, yes, they are obliged and obligated because they are property of the United States, and in pursuant to 18 USC 8, obligations are upon the United States. And if this is property of the United States, obligations are upon them. That is an obligation, and therefore the organization, yes, is obliged and indebted, to, and is in debt to the corporation, as it is property of such. But as a whole, the corporation is, in debt themselves. They're 36 trillion in debt, in counting, every single day going up, and they're not, and we, the people, are not in debt to them, but they're indebted to us, we the people. So when we talk about reparations and coming back to collect what's ours, right, there's more than enough remedy, and that money and that remedy is ours, right? And we talk about a respect to the consumer's right to privacy in number 4. All right, so right away, all 4 of the things within 1681 will help you guys with the removal of anything. 1681A is where we will find the definition section, for the within the FCRA. I do recommend you guys getting in tune with these, because a lot of these will surprise you guys, especially if you guys have medical bills. You guys can literally get medical bills removed right here, as it talks about a restriction on sharing medical information within 15 USC 1681A. If they stated they investigated your guys' consumer report, this is what an investigative consumer report should look like. 15 USC 1681A, term E, and then the term consumer report and agency. A lot of people are not in tune with what that means, but we're going to break that down here right now. So this right here, I'm not sure if you guys are still able to see my screen. Drop a 1 in the chat if you guys can. If such, that's great. This is actually our mentorship channel, and some of the things that we have within the mentorship. So you see we got a whole investment section. We have a consumer law section. Within the consumer law section, we do have some case studies within here. So I want to take you guys specifically here to TransUnion LLC versus the Federal Trade Commission versus the FTC, right? So, okay, I love it. You guys can't see my screen, so we are good. Okay, so I specifically just want to, okay, perfect. So you guys all my screen.